Hello, Hayless Gaming here, bringing you another Anomic mission guide. Today we have the one and the only burner Ashimmu. This one was a difficult one when I first started, and it costed me a lot of ships to learn how to do when I first started, so it's personally one that I don't like a lot. It does present a unique set of challenges. It's an Ashimmu with 2 sentinels that support it. And everybody in this room has newts, which will take your capacitor away. And they do a lot of damage. I do know that a fully passive Gila, without the low slots shield power relays, does have a hard time tanking it. And there are a lot of other things that struggle to tank it. And we're presented with the unique challenge that we have to deal with the capacitor. We have to do the DPS to break the things. We have to be able to track the frigates. And we have to have enough tank to survive it, are really the things that we need to be able to do. So it presents a unique set of challenges, and it's kind of a fun fight. And yeah, that's what it is. It does EM thermal damage, and it hits like a truck. And then its 2 sentinels do omni damage. They mostly do kinetic, which is an entirely different profile from the Ashimmu himself. So the sentinels are just as dangerous as the main target. And we have to kill all 3 to win. The ship that we picked for this one is a Vagabond. This is really unique, and when this fit came to me, I didn't believe it at first. I really didn't. I found it very difficult to believe that this would actually work, but it does. We have a Vagabond. We are running with 220mm Vulcan autocannons, which are the T2 220mm autocannons. We have a small tractor beam. If you don't have the CPU to fit this, which you should, you can do a tier 1 tractor beam. It really doesn't matter. Or if you don't have science trained to 5, you can do the tier 1 tractor beam. We have a Republic Fleet large cap battery, absolutely critical. And then a Pitham X type large shield booster. I know that the extra large shield booster and the medium cap shield boosters are more cap efficient, but in this case we use this one because it just kind of fits right where it needs to be. Its requirements are right, its usage is right, and we can make it work. And then we have 2 multi-spectrum hardeners and 2 capacitor control circuits with a capacitor flux coil in the low. And then we have 2 gyro stabilizers. And remember how I said we had tracking issues? We have 2 tracking enhancers to kind of fix that problem. So that's kind of the mix we went with. I have 462 DPS after that. We do not carry drones for this one, although it is advised to put drones in your cargo hold, as the drones can take aggro and alleviate DPS. The 2 sentinels plus the Ashimmu make minus 60 gigajoules of cap per second pressure. That means that when you read this little dial right here, if you're less than 60, it sucks. We're at 58.1, so we are on a time limit to clear this mission, and I'll show you guys how to deal with it if it's a little less. If you have max capacitor skills and you have a 5% cap implant, this is what you end up with, plus 58 cap. If you are missing some skills or don't have a 5% cap implant, it's going to be around 52 is really the minimum that I'd go, as Ashimmu alone puts out it's either 48 or 50 gigajoules of cap pressure on you, and the rest comes from the sentinels. So if you can kill the sentinels before you run out of cap, you'll be fine, but if you don't kill the sentinels in time, you're in trouble. So it kind of goes back and forth. Next up, we'll go over the skills here. The skills required for this are... I actually did extensive testing on this. It is Heavy Assault Cruiser to 3. I should have made this video 3 weeks ago as this character, or sorry, Heavy Assault Cruiser to 4, not 3. I correct myself, to 4. I'm gonna put 4 on my hands. Is the big one, is that you get Heavy Assault Cruisers to 4. Heavy Assault Cruisers 5 will make your life a little bit better, as the Vagabond has a, for Heavy Assault Cruisers, all it affects is damage. You get additional damage and additional fall off, which fall off is incredibly important in the world of autocannons. Fall off is a very important statistic, so we end up with a lot better range and application with the Heavy Assault Cruisers 2-4. In the navigation tab, nothing's really needed, but again, navigation 5 will help you. We don't use a prop mod in this, and we don't have a web or anything. Navigation 5 just makes you move a little faster. It makes your relative velocity with the sentinels a little bit lower. so you end up in a slightly better position. Engineering, of course, the capacitor skills are going to be required to 5. We need capacitor management and capacitor system operation both to 5 in order to have a strong enough capacitor to do this. And then we can ignore armor skills as we're a shield tank. For the shield skills, the shield compensation makes the repper a little bit easier to run. It uses 2% less capacitor, so if you have this to 4, I'd imagine it's runnable, but you're going to have to be able to do a little bit of cap management, which I'll show you how in the demonstration to do the cap management, but it's overall pretty simple to do. And then you're going to need the rest of the skills required to do it. Shield management, shield operation help with the amount of buffer that you have. It also gives you a little bit of passive regen should you get there. Tactical field manipulation makes it so you don't bleed into armor. And shield upgrades is not really required here. In gunnery, we definitely need to have the... we need medium projectile turret trained to 4 or 5. If you have heavy assault cruisers, I'd imagine you can get away with 4. And then you can use Republic Fleet Fusion to kill Ashimmu rather than Hail. But with 5, you get extra DPS, and again, you kill the Sentinels faster, so it's a lot safer to run if you have to 5. And then all the support skills, I'd recommend 5. I'd imagine you'd be able to get away without a couple of the support skills, but not without all of them to 5. So if you're missing, say, Surgical Strike to 5, I'm sure you'd be fine. It's only 3% damage. It's not a big deal. And I think it's a 20-day skill for the 3% damage. Not everybody's going to have that. That's fine. But for the most part, you want to have most of the gunnery support skills trained to 5 if you can't, especially the lower ones. The motion prediction is going to be a big one, as tracking is a big factor here. And then is it sharpshooter that has a not sharpshooter for Mimitar weapons? Trajectory analysis is going to be incredibly important to help with fall off, and you'll see why fall off is important here. For drones, again, we're not using drones. You can bring a flight of lights inside of a Vagabond. It works. And it helps, and then we don't really need any rigging skills here, so that's really it. It's not too crazy on the skills. The fitting is actually not too expensive either. For a base, 587 million is not a lot, as most base fits run from 600 to a billion ISK. So this is relatively cheap in the world of burners, which is awesome. I know I say cheap, but it's 500 million ISK. The big cost is the booster. But without further ado, next up is the demonstration. We're going to go ahead and jump right on into this mission here. And we'll show off the proper procedure, how I recommend doing it. So one thing that you need to know is the capacitor gets tense if you don't have perfect capacitor stuff. I only have 1 capacitor implant. If you have 2 of them, 2 5% cap implants, they can't cap you out. In this situation, they can, so we just have to be aware of that. We're just going to turn everything on. And not worry about it much after that. These 2 Sentinels will come crashing down pretty quickly. They do a lot of damage since we're not tanked for them. If we show info on them here, or whoops, I just want to fly in a random direction. It doesn't matter what direction we fly. We just want to fly in a direction. So we're going to show info on the Sentinel here, and we're going to see that its damage profile is actually explosive and kinetic, which is our natural strong resistance, but it's the exact opposite of what we're trying to tank, which is EM and thermal, and that's part of the reason why the Vagabond has been selected, as it's really effective. Whichever one gets closer first is the one that we're going to shoot. I know we're going to miss for a little bit, and then we're going to hit. The reason we just fly random in a straight direction is because they're going to orbit around us, and if we are flying straight, that orbit is a little bit better, and we end up killing them fairly quickly. I've tried approaching them. I've tried all kinds of different things for different ways to fly, sitting still, all that. I found just flying in a random direction is what works here. It doesn't matter what direction you fly. They're a lot faster than you. They'll control the range. They'll be where they want to be. As you can see, this is very important to note. During this phase where we're killing the first Sentinel, our shield bleeds. That means we may have to overheat if it takes too long. And since we are getting less capacitor than we're being neuted for, our capacitor is bleeding as well. So if your capacitor gets low, you can actually afford to turn this off for a few seconds at a time. And it's all about balance, but you can only turn it off for a couple seconds. That gives you the little bit of capacitor that you bled out. And you got to do that every now and then if your capacitor isn't quite strong enough. If you don't have plus 60, you have to turn that off every now and then just to get a little bit more capacitor. I'd do it when your capacitor gets below about 40%. Or a 27.5 is optimal regen. So if it gets below that, that's when you want to kind of turn it off for a second and give it a second to regenerate. Now that we've killed the first Sentinel, our capacitor's not going to die because we're above the Sentinel plus the Ashimmu. That's the only real breakpoint that I know. Our tank isn't going to fail because the Sentinel does less damage to us, and we can just go ahead and kill the Sentinel. Both the Sentinels web you? Or no, I guess just Ashimmu does. I thought the Sentinels did. So as you kill them, things just get easier. Second Sentinel's down. We're in a really good spot now. We don't have to worry about our capacitor. Things are just gonna kind of clear up, and this is one of those fits where I'm surprised that I'm even making a video on it, because if you have the skills, you just kind of go in the room, hit the buttons, and it works. You don't have to do any special flying or anything like that. So it's honestly a really easy fight. You just have to keep these things in mind. Make sure your cap is up. Make sure you're tanking right. If your tank begins to fail and you're not tanking enough for any reason at all, you haven't killed the Sentinel, you need to buy yourself more time, do not overheat the booster. The booster will make it so that you burn more cap faster. What you're going to overheat is the hardeners. You always overheat the hardeners first. And then if you're worried about heat, I'm kind of really lazy with this fit. What you would do is you'd put one hardener on top and one hardener on bottom, and then that way you would overheat this hardener and this hardener. They're away from each other and they can heat for a lot longer. You'll probably run them hot for a good percentage of this mission if you needed to, and that would buy you time for running the cap offline, and that would also buy you time if you're bleeding in armor a little bit during the first kill, because you don't have as much tank as you need while you're killing the first one. There is some bleed there. Once we kill the Sentinels, we switch to our close range ammo or our explosive damage ammo to clear out Ashimmu. And Ashimmu just takes a few minutes to kill. He's got a lot of armor. So, yeah. Well, we kill Ashimmu. I'm going to explain why we picked the Vagabond and why the Vagabond's such a great ship here. So we're going to go ahead and show info on it, on Ashimmu. And you can see his lowest resistance by far, or actually it's kinetic. I stand corrected. Well, his lowest resistance is kinetic, followed by explosive. So we wanted to be doing kinetic or explosive damage to him, and he does thermal EM damage, mostly thermal. The Vagabond has a cool trait. If we show info of a Vagabond, just normal Vagabond, without the other stats, on his base stats, its armor and shield resistances have a really high natural EM resist. So if we did this with an armor tank, although that's not really feasible with a Vagabond, it would have 90-67, which is really high, or 75-60 for shield. This is the base resist before any mods at all. And this makes it a great ship for dealing with Ashimmu or anything that fires lasers. It's got the right profile for it. And then the other trait that it has is in its bonuses. We have a rate of fire bonus, a shield boost amount bonus, which helps with the tank. Remember, we have barely enough tank. And then a damage bonus, which multiplies with the rate of fire bonus to generate even, they kind of multiply together. And then a fall off bonus makes our hail ammo fall off 21, and then the other ammo has a even further fall off, which helps it with applying the damage, which helps to apply the damage to the Sentinels and allows us to actually apply and do the damage. So the ship just kind of fits, and it does its job really well. And that's why we ended up using it. Somebody came up to me with a variant of this fit, and I solidified it for shields a little bit more. The fit I was given had a damage control on it and is a little bit different, and I decided to kind of do these couple changes to solidify it, make it a little bit more solid. And it ended up doing really well, and I was very impressed with its performance. Its time is actually really good. It clears this in around 10 minutes, which is awesome considering that Ashimmu has a 15 million bounty. They fixed that. It used to be 13.75 million, and they buffed it up. So he's got a bit more bounty on him now. And then the mission turn-in is also worth another 14k LP if you're in a 0.5 system and max skills, and like 5 or 6 million ISK, which is really good. It ends up equating to about 40 to, or from, it would be 35 to 45 million ISK to do this, which is a really good mission. It's great ISK and hour-wise. The Dracovic is still a little bit faster, simply because it clears it a little bit faster. But the Vagabond is a fun, easy, no stress way of doing this mission. And the Ashimmu, the reason we have the tractor beam for the end is if we tractor in Ashimmu's wreck, he does always drop a couple materials, which we'll see here in just a second. And the materials are normally a couple neural networks, a morphite or two, and sometimes he can drop blueprints. So this is a very generic drop. He drops neural networks, anti-Kythera filaments, and morphite every time. He always drops 1 to 6 of these 3 things, or 0 to 6 of these 3 things. So it ends up being another 2 or 3 million SQG to take home with you, which is always nice. But that's Burner Ashimmu and a Vagabond. If you guys like these burner videos, make sure you like and comment and subscribe and click the little bell notification so you can get notified when new videos come out. And then if you have your own way of doing these in this modern patch, let me know. I know the Gila and Dracovic are really good options for this. I've also seen an Ikatursa, I think, do these. I'm not quite sure. But if you have your own fits, feel free to share them in the comments. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Fly fun.